Welcome to Uncaged from talkSPORT. I'm Adam Catterall. Pleasure as always to be in your company. Brendan Loughnane alongside me to get stuck into all things MMA. Full review coming up of the weekend's action, which saw Lerone Murphy beat Edson Barboza. We're going to give you a little bit of a rundown of UFC 304 because that card has been announced as well for Manchester, and any other business is going to be taken care of. We're also going to delve into the world of boxing. Hold your horses. It's only a little delve, all right? Because we do have a boxing YouTube channel for you to get stuck into. But that's where I'm going to start. Make sure you subscribe to this channel, talkSPORT MMA, on YouTube, should I say. Hit the subscribe button. You'll never miss out on any of our content. We've got some big shows coming up, of course. 302's on the way where Islam Makhachev and Dustin Poirier getting stuck into each other in that main event. Paulo Costa and Sean Strickland's on the co-main as well. And then you've got 303, the return of Conor McGregor against Michael Chandler. And then we delve into 304. Where the UFC comes to Manchester. My man, shall we start in the world of boxing? Because I know that you are a savant when it comes to any combat sport. Any violence, you are there, mate. Nose in it, having a bit of a nosy around, and this is the sweet science. The Queensberry rules took over at the weekend. The undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. 25 years in the making. Loads of missed opportunities along the way, but we finally got it. The best against the best. Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk, and it was the Ukrainian Alexander Usyk that came out victorious via a split decision. Firstly, did you watch it? Were you fully immersed in the event?
4:30 in the morning, the alarm was set, I was up. How can you miss a fight on that magnitude that we've all been waiting for the last decade? Do you know what I mean? Brilliant. Great fight from two world-class operators. Thank you both, gentlemen, because it was a feast for the eyes. Amazing to watch. Both had great moments in the fight. I do think Usyk did do enough to win. Fury had his moments, and I'm sure he'll go back and watch it and believe that he can beat Usyk in the rematch, which I personally think he can. But what a great fight, Adam. Wow.
Mate, it was a sensational fight.
Yeah.
As you just said, two lads, elite technicians, brilliant IQ, setting traps for each other. You've got Usyk. I'll start fast then. I'll take the centre of the ring. Here's a trap for you. It is a puzzle to figure out. Fury sorts it out. Okay, cool. I'll just wait an extra beat and I'll let these backhands go, sunshine. Right, now you're doing that, are you? Okay, I'm going to come up with a different plan. What do you think of this? Yeah, no problem. I've got that for you. Bish, bash, bosh. And away we go. I've got it all level by the time we get to round number 8, mate. And then all of a sudden, the pace just goes up a touch and Usyk catches Tyson Fury, then big shots in round number 9, and that was kind of the tail of the back end of the fight. Even though, and this is where I want to take my hat off to Fury, even when he's out of it, even when you're thinking to yourself, the referee's waving this off in a minute and this fight is done, this fella's got some serious powers of recovery. I don't know where he finds it from, I really don't. And he came down the stretch, he's absolutely back on his boxing. I'm not saying he wins down the stretch, but he's back on his boxing and he's getting it together. And I tell you what, they put on some show, man. Absolutely a celebration of the best against the best. And long may that continue.
Well, like you said, I watched your prediction. I remember the message. I went, oh, that's a brave one. And you know what? He was going to the body really nice early, wasn't he, Adam? And I was thinking, hang on a minute. Adam's mystic powers are in here. But I also thought the body, after the whole Dubois thing, and Joshua hurt him to the body as well. Fury was going to the body really nice early. Really, really nice. Kind of went away from it at the back end of the fight. But Usyk with that constant forward pressure, the head movement, he was planted. Beautiful, the overhand left. It was such a great fight to watch. And I really do hope that they do have a rematch because I can see Fury beating him. I can.
This is the big thing for me now. Listen, Fury has been fantastic. Every time he steps through those ropes, he's been fantastic. He's delivered some big signature wins in his career. And as a boxer, he's been top class. But the one thing that he hasn't had to face is coming off a loss. And this is where champions are made. This is where greatness is made. I love this. I genuinely am bought into this narrative now. You've had a fight with an elite guy. You've come up just slightly short. We're not talking about getting absolutely ironed out in a second, are we? We're talking about coming up slightly short in a fight that you absolutely had success in. What wrinkles do you change? Where do you make the adjustments? Does he change the corner? Does he change what does he do in order to come back and get the victory? Because this is where greatness is made.
Too many voices in the corner, Adam.
I agree.
He was getting screamed at 3 different instructions. Like, Sugar's his coach, man. Like, leave it to him. This, you've got a very experienced guy in front of you there that you're doing a game plan with solid. Then you've got your dad screaming at you. Then you've got Andy, and it's like, it's a whole load of commotion. I actually, speaking from personal experience, I like to sit down, give myself 20 seconds. Okay, what? And I look at one person. And if any of the other two corners have got anything to say, tell that one person to tell me. I don't need three voices screaming at me all different stuff. And I think slight changes like that could be the difference in a fight like this.
I agree. Just to finish on the positive, because Usyk's the champion, he got the job done. The way that he rallied when that fight was going away from him in 6 and 7, to come out in 8 and deliver what he delivered, absolutely outstanding. And then in 9, to nearly have Tyson Fury out of there and then to close the show down the stretch, truly sensational. Stepping up from cruiserweight to become the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. The best heavyweight of this era, mate. He is some fighter, that fella.
No, but we're talking about a guy that's coming from a war zone. He was on the front line himself. Like, this is a different type of human being. Left his whole family. I just watched the interview that he did and missed all the birthdays. And we had one fight cancelled due to the court. He stayed in camp, stayed consistent. And, did you see after it when he said, I've been training for you for, I can't remember what date he said.
2008.
2008 he's been watching Tyson from and preparing for him. And you know what? That's exactly what the fight looked like. He looked like he had been preparing since 2008. He just knew how to deal with Fury. And you know what? He took big shots entering, but he knew, I've got to stick with this guard and I've got to get in close. Most guys would have started moving back and thinking, I don't want to take them. He stuck with it, kept the head movement going. Even when he was getting it to the body and it to the head, there was moments that Fury looked like he was running away with the fight. Two or three rounds, I thought, pop. Nice, Fury's in his river. But no, Usyk then readjusted like a true champion. Amazing.
Amazing indeed. And like you said, normally I'm sat here going, don't need to see a rematch. I absolutely need to see a rematch. Those two guys dished up an absolute belter. Let's go again. October, fingers crossed. Everybody's fit, healthy, ready to rock and roll. Let's go again. That leads us on nicely to what was announced last week in the UFC. UFC 304 is coming to Manchester. Yes, okay, we've spoken to the absolute hind legs off about the start time. Let's just park that for a second, because this card is right up there with the very best cards that we've ever had on British soil. It's an absolute banger. 2 title fights and a stacked main card. Loads of prelims still to come as well. My days. Leon Edwards in the main event against Bilal Muhammad. We'll talk about that in a minute. Tom Aspinall's going to defend against Curtis Blades. We'll talk about that in a minute. But let's talk about these 3 fights just to give us the entree to those two title fights. You've got Paddy the Baddy Pimblett taking on Bobby Green. Then you've got Momokhaev in what is absolutely a title eliminator against Manel Kape. And kicking all this off, Arnold Allen, one of the most underrated fighters from British soil, taking on Jika Chikadze, one of the best kickboxers in the UFC. Mate, oh my days. The British fight fans are in for a treat. I
mean, yeah, what a card. And, out of all them that you just mentioned, the one that I'm most intrigued about, Arnold Allen, let me just go back to your original point. Arnold Allen is the most underrated fighter in the UK by a country mile. Are we forgetting what he did with Max Holloway very recently? Like, we're talking BMFs and look what he did to Gaethje. If we start doing MMA maths, Arnold Allen was a whisker away from beating Max in that fight. 1 or 2 mistakes away from it. Him and Chikadze, amazing fight. Chikadze, world-class kickboxer. Then you go to Paddy and Bobby. You've got the Battle of the Mouths. Yeah, what a great press conference that's going to be. Press conference alone, Adam. I'm in for the press conference alone.
That should be pay-per-view. Pay-per-view or the press conference, just their section.
Pay-per-view press conference. Then you meet. Honestly, it is a fantastic card. And guess what? They didn't give the English the easy little knockovers and let them all have the, there wasn't all that. There's not all that, mate. These are well and truly 50-50 fights. And guess what? Mo beats Manuel. Then he's back in for a title. We've got another English champion. It is the year of the English, Adam. I can feel it in my bones.
Well, for me, listen, Steve Erceg has just put in a wonderful performance against Alexandre Pantoja, hasn't he? But I would say that Erceg maybe would go and fight a Roy Val or somebody else at the top of the tree in order to get himself back into that title mix. Pantoja's the guy, no doubt. He's the man. So now we're looking for a person that can stick their head above the parapet and say, I am your next challenger, because he's wiped out the division. Even though he's not done it as champion, he's wiped out that division, the top dudes. He's already fought Manel Cap, but in Manel Cap's defence, it was on his debut. He came out of Rising straight away and they went, right, you're fighting Pantoja. All right, sound. And he just came up short. Since then, Manel Cap's been absolutely fantastic. Yeah. Mo's been fantastic. 6 fights in the UFC and 4 finishes. Come on, man. That's absolutely elite. He probably should have got the shot when Usyk got the shot, given the run that he's had. This is it. This is the eliminator. You win this, however way you win it, you're going to be fighting Alexander Pantoja for the world title. Listen, you know Mo really, really well. Just how good is he? He's still only a baby in MMA terms, but just how good is he?
2 times world amateur champion, where the levels in these world competitions, I just want to let everyone know, the level at amateur that you have to go through to win these tournaments is insane. He doesn't get enough credit for that alone. Now let's throw that aside. Like you said, his UFC career has been near enough flawless. Yeah, there could be improvements, but he's making them every single day and he's doing everything he can to be the best version of himself, taking himself to Dagestan and Thailand and everywhere. And this fight here, Manuel, great fighter also. I'm actually a fan of Manuel. I really like the way he fights.
Really good fighter.
Great fighter. Great fighter. I actually think it could be Mo's toughest fight in the division. When I look up and down him, or maybe Albazi. I rate Albazi too, another great fighter. So them two, he's actually got the toughest fight in the division. He's got it on home soil, and I'm really looking forward to that fight, Adam. That is a sleeper on the card.
I remember when you introduced me to him. For people that don't know this story, I've told this in an interview with Mo ages ago. But I went up to the gym in Manchester where Brendan was training, and he was showing me around the gym and what have you. And he said, "You see that kid there?" And he must have been about 16, 17 years of age. Yeah. You know, I think he'd already won the youth. I don't think he'd done the adult one yet. I think he'd done the youth amateurs. And you went, that kid there, he is going to be the business. Absolute business. Yeah. Took me over, introduced me to Mo. You're doing his stretches on the mat. The funny thing is, I don't know if you know this part of the story. When I was leaving that day, I got in my car. He knocked on my car window. He walked right. He followed me outside. He knocked on my car window. I wound it down. And you know what he's like? He just went... and it was at the time I was working for BT Sports. BT Sports now is TNT. And he goes, Mr. BT Sports, you'll be interviewing me in a few years, my friend. See you soon. And he just cleared off. Confidence. That's another thing. We were talking about mentality a lot in this sport, don't we? That lad has unwavering confidence in his abilities. It's a tough test, as you said. 15 minutes against Manel Cap. It's going to be high-paced. Can he navigate it? I think he can, because he's proven that he can do it on the highest level. He's going to need the whole toolbox to get the job done, though.
Going to have the full Manchester crowd behind him. He's well seasoned in the UFC now. He's experienced. He's getting a little bit older. He's coming into his prime. And I think this is the perfect time now for Mo to kick on, beat Manuel, go and get a title and bring it back to Manchester. And I can see it. I can really, really see it. I can see it because I told you 10 years ago.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. Right. Listen, on the 2 title fights, mate. First and foremost, co-main event, we've got the interim heavyweight world championship where Tom Aspinall's going to be defending. Of course, Tom Aspinall's on the card. He's a local boy, so he's got to be there, okay? But he's taking on Curtis Blades in the rematch. I see the narrative. I see it completely. Yeah. But there's a slight bit of disappointment because I thought we were going down the path of Cyril Gann. Tom versus Cyril in this fight. For me, stylistically, kickboxing, you know that I love the striking, man. I'd have sat there and gone, this is going to be sensational. But Cyril said no. He's making a movie. He don't want to fight for the interim title. What's that all about?
We are prize fighters, yeah? Like, when you get a call to fight for a title, whether it be UFC, Bellator, PFL, whatever it is, you fight for that title because things move very quickly in this sport. And the UFC will not like the fact that he said, I'm doing a movie. Sorry, mate, I'm busy doing a movie. Nah, I'm not all for it. I would have loved to have seen the Gann fight, but guess what? If I'm Tom and I lost the way I lost to Curtis Blades, I'd also want to right that wrong. So I bet for Tom, he'll get more sleep at night fighting Curtis Blades than he will Cyril Gann right now, because Cyril Gann's going to be down the line anyway.
Yeah. Challenges, though, because he's a sensational wrestler, is Curtis Blades, and he's got heavy hands as well. It is listen, people will look at this and say, listen, we've just seen Tom do what he's done to Pavlovich. It's a different challenge.
Agreed.
There's loads of different things that are going to be presented in front of Tom, and he's going to have to be absolutely switched on because of the heavy hands and the multifaceted approach that Blades can actually use against him.
Yeah, I agree. Like we knew with Pavlovich, it's going to be a bang out, innit? It's going to be a shootout. Whereas Curtis pulls his more problems with the wrestling. He's a very decorated wrestler. He's athletic. He's got very heavy hands, and he has also got a win over Tom. How much does that play into your psychology? Do you know what I mean? So I will be looking forward to that one as well. That's a big one. That's a big one. I'm really looking forward to that fight.
Leon in the main event against Belal Muhammad. It's kind of where this was always going. Belal's earned it. Belal's earned it. He has earned it, though.
It's light
you
work.
You reckon it's straightforward for Leon?
I like Belal, but it's light work. Leon's levels. Leon is levels in this fight. I know. I'm like, do you know what, though? It's like one of them where I always write Belal off in his fights and he finds a way to win. It's weird. But I just feel like Leon Edwards he's that guy in there. He's just that guy at the minute. I just see him being too sharp, too quick, home crowd behind him, too experienced now at this level. I don't see where Belal can trouble Leon in this fight. I really don't. And we've already seen a little snippet of what's going to happen. And we've seen how it ended. Unfortunate ending last time. But there's only one winner in my eyes in this fight.
Fighters go through purple patches, don't they? We saw it with... Perfect example of recent times is probably Volkanovski. There's just a red-hot patch of 18 months, 2 years, where it doesn't matter who you put in front of them to beat them. And we're talking about the levels of the Max Holloways of this world. You bring in your Brian Ortega, and he takes care of that, and he just goes through it. And then it does come to end. It doesn't last forever, granted, but there's a red-hot patch. Leon Edwards is in that red-hot patch right now. He is absolutely on it. He hasn't switched off since becoming champion. He's in the gym. He's doing the work. He's still living the life. Like you said, there's going to be bigger challenges, I think, coming up. The likes of the Shavkats of this world and those types of characters. This is an opportunity for one Leon Edwards to get some serious love from the British fans. I'm sure he's already experienced it at the O2 at UFC 286 when he took on Kamaru Usman. But it's also an opportunity for a record-breaking night because he's 13 fights undefeated in the welterweight division. If he beats Belal, he overtakes GSP, mate.
All right. Wow. See what I mean? People don't even know this. I'm glad you brought that up. I think, like you said, and another thing we've got to take into consideration with Leon, is let's not forget that he accepted all them challenges. Was it UFC 300 where he accepted all of the hardest challenges that were thrown at him? Yes, yes, and yes. Leon is up for it, mate. Like, he's like, come on, I'll fight any of yous. I know I'm the best. And I just know with this level of confidence and this Leon, I can't see anyone beating him for a while. I really can't.
Bring it on. UFC 304 is going to be absolutely sensational going down in July. With Leon Edwards against Belal Muhammad as your main event and Tom Aspinall defending that interim crown against Curtis Blades. 2 rematches for us to enjoy and get stuck into. Keeping it on the Manchester scene, let's have a quick look back at the weekend's action. It was a coming-of-age night for the miracle man himself, Lerone Murphy, pitted up against legend Edson Barboza. When you think of fighters that can't catch a break, you think of Lerone Murphy. Burst into the UFC. I was at his debut in Abu Dhabi, and he ended up getting a draw in a fight that I thought that he won. He's been undefeated since. He's undefeated in his whole career. Just that one draw on the record. But a series of near-death experiences. Obviously, everybody knows about the situation and about getting shot in the face when he was younger. But then, recently, whilst out training on his bike, getting knocked off his bike, ends up in hospital in a really bad situation. Not only his career's on the line, but his life's on the line. He ends up having to take a year to 18 months out to recover for that. He then has fights fall off, i.e. Nathaniel Wood would have been a cracker on the London card. He had Dan Ige booked for February. He ended up getting injured. He ended up having to pull out of that one. And then you get this fight lined up and you think, please, fingers crossed, everybody stay fit, everybody make weight, everybody have a healthy camp. Let's just get to the cage and make this thing happen. Well, it did. It happened on Saturday night, and Lerone Murphy had the moment, man. He came of age and announced himself to the featherweight division.
I was really impressed with this fight because, Edson Barboza is never an easy night for anyone in any division. Let's not forget he's fought the best at 55 and 45 for the last decade. So it was one of them fights. It's going to make you or it's going to break you. Gatekeeper in the division. Looked sensational. Mixed up the wrestling with the striking. It looked great, man. Good. I would have liked for him to come out a little healthier. So we could have ended up getting a quick turnaround for Manchester. Then he could have introduced himself to the Manchester crowd and got that behind him. So that was unfortunate. But apart from that, what a performance.
I think whatever the next move is for Manchester, he has to be in and around Manchester and celebrated and pumped in front of the media all week, because that performance was absolutely top class from Lerone Murphy. Check this out, right? It's the third biggest strikes landed difference in UFC history. He hit 220 significant strikes compared to Barboza's 79. Imagine outstriking Edson Barboza to that level. In his first 5-round fight, in his first main event against Edson Barboza, he outstruck him to that level. That is a performance and a half.
It just, you know what it looked like to me? It looked like a changing of the guard. It looked like a passing of the torch. It looked like, Edson's on this side, Lerone's on this side, and it looked like, it was a great fight for Lerone to show his skills against someone that, because let's have it right, when Edson Barboza's fighting or he's put on a card, we're watching, aren't we? So they're the type of guys you want to get matched up with. You don't care about some guy who's just come in the UFC and he's 3-0 and he's dangerous and he's 21 years old and he's come from the hills of Dagestan or somewhere, and you're like, oh God. You want someone like Barboza, you want a marquee name to go make your name off, and that's what happened. Took the opportunity and ran with it.
We're not talking about a wash Barboza either, because if you remember last time out against Sadiq Youssef, who's also another hot prospect coming through, Sadiq put it on him in the first 5 minutes. He gave him a proper shellacking. And then all of a sudden Edson went, okay, mate, I'll use a bit of my experience here. In the next 4 rounds, it was all Edson Barboza just being pure class. Still at it. So coming into this fight, there was some serious jeopardy for Lerone. He stepped up. He delivered it in the smaller cage as well in the apex, where there was absolutely no room to be on the outside running around and just popping shots off. You've got to be in people's faces. He took it to him. And the most impressive thing, the way he mixed it up. The takedowns. Right, we're striking now, but I'm going to do a little bit of wrestling here. I'll show you a bit of my grappling. Then we'll get back up on our feet. And it was a full, well-rounded mixed martial arts performance.
Mate, how hard is Edson Barboza, though, mate? Like, to take that many significant strikes at 38 years old, mate, what a guy. Do you know what I mean? What a guy to come, for all the fights that he's had and the damage that he's had, to still be doing it at this age, at this level. Fair play to him, but there is some really tasty fights for Lerone. I'm going to throw one at you.
Do it.
Imagine Arnold Allen and Lerone Murphy.
Look at you.
No. Right. Think about that fight.
You're thirsty for Brit violence, aren't you? You're a bad man.
Think of that fight for a second, technically. That is the fight I want to see.
Well, I think it has... I won't say it has to happen next, but it's going to happen. If both of these guys are wanting to get to the top of this tree in this division, they at some point they're going to have to meet. Arnold's the guy at the moment, isn't he? He's fighting Jika, as we've just said, on 3 or 4. That's a tough fight within itself.
Very tough.
But if he comes through that, then obviously he's going to be looking up once again in the top 5 echelons. Whereas Lerone, with a win at the weekend, he's going to be in the top 15. He's probably going to be looking in and around that 5 to 10 ranking slots for his next fight. I mean, there's the likes of the Mosvar Evloevs in there and all those types of characters that he could maybe get matched up against. You come through that, then you're talking about Arnold Allen's. If Max Holloway comes back down to 45, the Max Holloways of this world, the Ortegas of this world, the Rodriguezes of this world, and then, of course, the champ in Ilya. Wow, man. Don't forget Volk, by the way.
What a division. What a division. It's on fire.
It's absolutely unbelievable. Let's say you 45ers, man. You bring it, don't you?
Tell you what, there's some decent 45ers knocking around Manchester at the minute, isn't there, mate? Tell
you, there's some hands in Manchester. Right, any other business? Shall we get stuck into this? You may have seen this on talkSPORT throughout the course of the week. We're speaking, obviously, about Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk a lot. And Paulie Malignaggi was on the various shows talking about the boxing, but he did dip into the world of MMA as well, talking about his old pal, Conor McGregor. Check this out, because he was asked about the situation with Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler. He was asked to give a fight prediction. This is what he had to say.
I don't know. I don't really know what to make of it. I think both Conor and Chandler are sort of on a little bit of a negative part of their career, and I think this is just sort of a way to see who's got something left. You know, it's sort of a loser is eliminated type of fight. You know, I think it was kind of the same thing in the Poirier fights. You know, Poirier really was on his way down, and I think they were trying to use him to bring back Conor McGregor. and Poirier ended up beating him twice, and then ended up getting one or two other good fights out of it. But really, Poirier's level showed that it really wasn't the same, because even after he got done beating McGregor, he went back to kind of diminishing a little bit and getting beat. So I don't know if this is sort of the same situation where they're trying to see who's got more left here, if it's Chandler or McGregor. I do think Chandler has some trouble with stand-up fighters, guy with stand-up strikers. He's more of a wrestler. I do think stylistically, McGregor has a bit of an advantage here if Chandler cannot close that gap and get it to the ground and use his wrestling background. And I'm not sure really what kind of chin or if how his legs are at this point, Chandler. So I'm not sure if he's going to be able to close that gap correctly. If I put on my analyst hat, I would probably favor McGregor to win the fight.
You can watch the full interview with Paulie Malignaggi on the talkSPORT MMA YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe to that channel so you never miss out on any of the content. What do you make of that, mate? There you go. He's gone for Conor. He's picked Conor to beat Chandler, and he's also referred to it as a loser leaves town type of fight.
Interesting. Listen, Conor McGregor, while he's training and he's in that mindset like he is now, he's locked off from the world. I know better than anyone. I've just took a few straight shots off him. I've also sparred Michael Chandler, so I know what I'm dealing with. I know what I'm looking at, and I know what I'm talking about in this fight. If Conor even shows up 50% healthy, he beats Michael Chandler. Like that's in my head, yeah. A lot can happen on the night. Michael Chandler's been more active and thingy whatever, and Conor's coming off the leg break. But 50% Conor turns up, he starts his Michael Chandler, and I'm very confident in saying that. And I just think now he's locked off from the media. He's got the big cage in his back garden. He's got his coaches. He's got his family. He's got John Kavanagh. I just think we're going to see, maybe not the best version, but definitely the best version that we can see now. I definitely think he's homed in and he's ready to put on a show. And I can't wait. And I'm going to be there. And so are you, lad.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I think everything that you just said, listen, I'm not going to argue against you. You've been there and felt these two gentlemen up close and personal. What I just want to touch upon what Paulie was saying there about the loser leaves town situation. I don't see that. Maybe, listen, they might make that decision, but I don't see that. Listen, it's Conor McGregor first and foremost. He's going to be cracking on fighting for as long as he possibly can. And it's also Conor McGregor. He's the biggest name in the game. If he wants to have a scrap, he's going to have a scrap. And I don't think he'll be shy of finding opponents to get in there and have a little bit of a knock with him, even if he isn't victorious against Michael Chandler. And from a Michael Chandler point of view, okay, he's come to the UFC, big reputation from Bellator. He's come to the UFC and he's currently 2-3, I think, in his record. He's had 5 fights, 2-3. And all right, you might look at the level of opponent that he's beaten compared to the level of opponent that has beaten him. And maybe he's not going to become the UFC champion because he does fall short against the top dudes. But tell me a time when you've watched Michael Chandler and it's been boring. It's never boring. It's never boring, is it? So therefore, if he wants to fight, there's always a place for him. In my eyes, there's always a place for him because as soon as I see his name on a card, I'm like, that's going to be ace. I'm in.
Yeah, but it's the perfect opponent for Conor. Let's have it right. We've got a guy here, right, that is a world-class wrestler but doesn't wrestle. Yeah? Guy that
fancies himself with big winging shots. Yeah.
That likes to do this, yeah, against an absolute sniper on the outside. Like, it's a recipe for disaster for Michael Chandler. And that's why I'm quite confident in saying 50% Conor starches, 100% Michael Chandler. There you go.
Big. Listen, that's going down at UFC 303. Make sure you're checking it out. As Brendan said there, we'll be getting you closer to that one. No doubt about it. Now, a mutual friend of ours made an announcement last week, didn't he? He's stepping into the world of boxing. MMA favourite, former UFC welterweight and middleweight, Darren Till is who I'm referring to. He's been out for a bit. We know that he's been grafting. He's been in the gyms, keeping his head down and putting the work in the world of boxing in order to try and get himself some type of fight. Now, there's been loads of rumours whether he was going into bare knuckle, whether he was going into this, misfits, whether he was going into that and all this type of carry on. Well, anyway, check this out for an announcement. And you can think about the event itself, and no doubt you've got your own opinions on it, but think about it from a Darren Till point of view. He's just stepped out of the UFC, right? stepped into the world of boxing, and first up, he's fighting on a Mike Tyson-Jake Paul undercard, streamed on Netflix around the world, and he's taking on one of the most famous names in the world of boxing, in Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., former world champion. What an opportunity for Darren Till to, one, showcase what he's been working on over the last God knows how long, and two, really make a little bit of a stamp. Because I think the narrative, if he is even remotely impressive, he's going to be propelled towards Jake Paul at some point.
Well, you know, he's a very close friend of ours, Adam. And you know, the thing is with Darren, like, we just want the best for Darren, don't we? And this is the best possible move that Darren could have made. Yeah, should it have been made a year ago? Probably. But, you know, we're here now. Darren's been training his ass off. He's in the best gym. He's training with Dennis McCann, all the Smith brothers. All, like, he could not have picked a better boxing gym. It's in his hometown of Liverpool. He's surrounded by all these people, all the Scousers. He's training his ass off. And this, like, if I could handpick the perfect first fight for Darren, it would be this guy. So I think, I mean, the Jake Paul fight, does Jake Paul really want to fight a young guy in his prime? No, look at who else he's been fighting. So we were just having this discussion off air. We were saying, you know, if he looks impressive here, Jake's saying, I'll fight the winner. But will you fight the winner, Jake? Will you? Will you fight someone in the prime? Someone like Till in the prime? I hope you stand by your word, because I can see Darren running straight through both of them. I really can.
From an MMA point of view, and again, listen, complete transparency with people watching this, we are mates with Darren Till, right? From an MMA point of view, because I want to see him back in MMA, because I want to see him be successful, because I believe he's got something left, right? So my conversations with him have always been about what goes on between his ears. He's got all the technique in the world, mate. I've watched him so many times and think to myself, mate, you're just awesome. And it's just what is going on in here. This could be great, because if he goes in here and he gets that confidence, he gets that rhythm going, he gets used to winning. That's the thing in it. Let's get used to winning. Winning's that habit. Let's get in that mode. Let's start getting that chest pumped up like the old gorilla used to do. Let's start feeling ourselves a little bit. Let's start believing in what we're all about. Yeah. I hope that maybe one or two of these provides a pathway back to the UFC or back to MMA in some way, shape or form. And then Darren Till can get back to doing what, in my opinion, he was put on the planet to do, to really make a good run in the UFC, because he was there, man. He fought Tyron Woodley for the welterweight championship. He was nearly there.
I said this the other day. That was my main comment that I said, look at Darren Till's last 5 opponents, mate. He fights nothing but amazing world-class operators, which he is doing again. Let's just have it right. Most people, for the first 10 fights in boxing, fight bin men. Am I lying?
Yeah.
He's coming in against a former world champion for his debut. That's what type of guy this Darren Till is. Like him or don't like him, take your hat off to him and respect what he's doing in the sport, because he's coming in against a former world champion. Yeah, he's on the other side. Who cares? Darren's first ever time in a boxing ring having a boxing match. On a scale like that, against somebody with, 60-plus fights, pro fights? Like, come on, mate. Fair play to you, Darren Till. Up the till. Let's go, lad.
Roll on, Texas. There you go. Listen, it's going to be a mad week that week when Darren Till's on there. Obviously, Mike Tyson, Jake Paul. But let's not just not highlight the big fight. In my opinion, on that card, Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano, that is just going to be absolutely, truly sensational. But more on that as we get a little bit closer to the event. Whilst we're talking about crossovers, MMA people coming into the world of boxing, you may have seen this in the last 24 hours. Chael Sonnen, that's right. He's back, ladies and gentlemen, the bad guy. He's taking on Anderson Silva again, but he's doing it this time boxing. Doesn't make any sense, this, to me, mate. Apart from let's go and make a few quid, right? Doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
I don't think anyone's allowed to retire now ever. I think we're all just stuck in fighting until the end of time. Mike Tyson's nearly 60, still throwing them. You've got Chael Sonnen and Anderson Silva, who retired how long ago, still throwing them. I don't think there is any retirements anymore. I think retirement, You know, Conor said it the other day, we're never out of this game. We're always one phone call or one paycheck away from getting back in the mix.
Mate, if people are willing to pay, if people are willing to watch, that's the game. It's a supply and demand market, mate. If you're still worthy of being put on a card that people are going to buy a ticket for or they're going to buy a pay-per-view for, they'll keep rolling you out, lads. They'll keep rolling you out.
So it's basically never over.
It's never over, man.
We're just we're in an episode of Black Mirror where you just keep going round and forever.
Me and you are still going to be doing the show when you're in your 60s, sunshine, and I'm going to be previewing a fight for you.
That's what I'm saying. We'll be like, right, I'm fighting next week, Adam. One of them ones.
That's it. We finally got it. It's Brendan against Paddy Pimblett.
Yeah. Oh, my God. You're right, though. Bring it on, though. Why not? What else is there to do?
Mate, come on, man. That's what you're on the planet for. Have a bit of fun with it. There you go. Listen, as always, my man, top show. Thank you very much for watching us and getting stuck into all things MMA. We'll be back next week with a review of the action and building up towards UFC 302, where Dustin Poirier hopes to become lightweight world champion. He's got a tough task on his hands, let me tell you. Islam Makhachev. We were talking about purple patches earlier on, weren't we? This guy is right in the middle of his purple patch. But that's the main event for UFC 302. We'll give you a bit of a preview on that. So make sure you subscribe to the talkSPORT MMA YouTube channel, and we'll catch you next time.